Hello, bruv. We're back with Cruel as the Grave. Chapter 23. The solitude is invaded. Oh, might we here in solitude live savage, in some glade obscured where highest woods impenetrable to star or sunlight spread their umbrage broad, and brown as evening, cover us ye pines, ye cedars with innumerable boughs, hide us where we may ne'er be seen again. Byron. Lord Byron, I assume. Nothing could be more lonely and desolate than this place. It was abandoned to nature and nature's wild children, of the birds that perched so near his hand, of the squirrels that peeped at him from their holes under the gravestones. He might have said with Alexander Selkirk on Juan Fernandez, "Their tameness is shocking to me." There was a great consolation to be derived from these circumstances, however, for they proved how completely deserted by human beings and how perfectly safe for the refugees was this old, haunted chapel. Too deeply troubled in mind to take any repose of body, lion burners continued to ramble about among the gravestones, which were now so worn with age that no vestige of their original inscriptions remained to gratify the curiosity of a chance inspector. Above him was the glorious autumn sky, now hazy with the golden mist of Indian summer. Around him lay a vast wilderness of hill and dell covered with luxuriant forest, now gorgeous with the glowing autumn colors of their foliage. But his thoughts were not with this magnificent landscape. They wandered to the past days of peace and joy before the coming of the coquette had made confusion with the wedded pair. They wandered to the future, trying to penetrate the gloom and horror of its shadows. They flew to Black Hall, picturing the people, prevising the possibilities there. How he longed for, yet dreaded the arrival of Captain Pendleton. Would there be danger in his coming through the open daylight? What news would he bring? The verdict of the coroner's Jesus Christ. The verdict of the coroner's jury? Against whom must this verdict be given? Lion Burner shuddered away from answering this question. But it was also possible that before this, the murderer might have been discovered and arrested. Should this surmise prove to be a fact? Oh, what relief from anguish. What a happy return home for Sybil. If not, if the verdict should be rendered against her, nothing but flight and exile remained to them. While lion burners wandered up and down like a restless ghost among the gravestones, his attention was suddenly arrested by the sound of a crackling tread breaking through the bushes. He turned quickly, expecting to see Captain Pendleton, but he saw his own servant instead. "Joe," he exclaimed in a tone of surprise. "Marser," responded the man in a voice of grief. "You come from Captain Pendleton? What message does he send? How is it at the house? Has the coroner come? And has any clue been... I wonder why they changed clue to UE. Or was that the other book? Been found to the murder?" anxiously inquired Mr. Berners. "No, marser. No clue ain't been found to no murder, but the house up there is full of crowners and constables. And if it was the county courthouse and Captain Pendulum managing everything." "He sent you to me?" "No, marser. He nor likewise knowed I come." "Joe, who has sent you here?" inquired Mr. Berners. No one hasn't, marser," answered Joe, dashing the tears from his eyes, and then proceeding to unstrap a large hamper that he carried upon his shoulders. "No one? Then how came you here?" demanded Mr. Berners uneasily. Now, instead of answering his master's question, Joe sat down upon his hamper and wept aloud. "What is the matter with you?" inquired Mr. Berners. "You asked me how I comed here," sobbed Joe. "Just as if I could keep away when she and you was here in trouble and a-wanting someone to look arter you." "But how did you know we were here?" anxiously questioned Mr. Berners. "I wasn't a-listening at keyholes, nor likewise eavesdropping." Eavesdropping? Does it say caves or eaves? I think it says eaves. It's eavesdropping. An eavesdropping which I consider beneath a gentleman to do, but I was looking to the back shutters to see as they was all safe, arter the fright we got, and I hearn somebody a-talking, which I was sure was more bugglers, so I made free to wait and hear what they said. It was Captain Pendleton and myself, I suppose, said Mr. Berners, much annoyed. Just so, sir, it was Captain Pendulum and yourself, which it hurt me to the heart, as you should have trusted into Captain Pendulum and not into me, a old and valued servant of the family. And so, Joe, you overheard the whole matter? Which I did, sir, and shocked I was to think as any false charges should cause my dear young missus to run away from home in the night time like a fusible slave, and hurt I was to think you didn't trust into me instead of into he. Well, Joe, it appears to me that you were resolved to take our trust if we did not give it to you. What brought you here this morning? Coffee, sir, gravely answered Joe, getting up off the hamper and beginning to untie its fastenings. What? Demanded Mr. Berners, gathering his brows into a frown. Coffee, reiterated Joe as he took from the hamper a small silver coffee pot, a pair of cups and saucers, spoons, plates, and knives and forks, a bottle of cream, and several small packets containing all that was needful for breakfast. Joe, this was very kind and thoughtful of you, but was it quite safe for you to come here with a hamper on your back an open day? Inquired Mr. Berners. Lord bless you, sir, safe as safe. I took bypaths and didn't see a creetur, not one. Why, Lord, sir, you had better have trusted into me from the beginning than into Capping Pendulum. Brush your soul, marster. There ain't that white man going. Not yet that red Injun that can equal a colored gentleman into hiding and seeking. I can well believe that. Why, marster, but you don't remember that time I got mad long old Marse Bertram Berners about blaming of me for the sorrel horse falling lame, and I ran away? No. Well, I was gone 3 months and not 5 miles from home all that time, and all the constables looking arter me for law and order, and all the poor white trash hunting of me for the reward, and not one of 'em all ever struck upon my trail, and me so nigh home all the while. Well, but you were found at last, suggested Mr. Berners. Who, me? No, sir. I don't think as I should have been found yet, 'cause it was a funny kind of life, that runaway life, a dodging of the manhunters. But you see, marster, I sort of pined arter the child, meaning Mrs. Sybil, who was then about 4 years old, and moreover, it was fotch to me. What is fotch? It was fotch to me by a secret friend of mine, as the child was likewise a pining arter me. So I up and went straight home and walked right up before old Marse and took off my hat and told him as how I was willing to forgive and forget and let bygones be bygones, like a Christian gentleman, if he would do the same. And of course your master at once accepted such magnanimous terms. Who, he? Why, Marse Lion, he looked just as if he'd knocked me down, only you see the child, meeting Miss Sybil, was a-sitting on his knee, which soon as ever she saw me, she ran to me and clasped me round one leg and tried to climb up in my arms, which I took her up at once, and old marster, he couldn't knock me down then, if it had been to have saved his life. So peace was ratified. Yes, Marse Lion, which I told you all this here nonsense just to let you know how good I was at hiding and seeking. And Marse, the horses come home all right. They did. I am glad of that. This was the way of it being all right, sir. You see, I knowed when I heard you were going to ride to this old church, as you couldn't get the horses through this thicket, but would have to turn them loose to find their way home. And I knowed how if any other eyes except mine saw them, it would set people to axing questions. So I goes out to the road and watches till I sees 'em coming, when I take charges of 'em and gets 'em into the stables quiet, and no one the wiser. Well done, Joe, but tell me, my good man, are we missed yet? Has anyone inquired for us? Plenty has axed arter you both, Marse, but as no one but me and Captain Pendulum know where you was gone, and I locked your door and took the key, most of the folks still think as how Miss Sybil has gone to bed, overcome by the events of the night, and as how you was watching by her and taking care of her. That also is well. But, Mars, how is Miss Sybil, and where is she? Inquired the faithful servant, looking about himself. She is very much prostrated by fatigue and excitement, and is now sleeping in the church. Thanks be to the divine master, as she can sleep, said Joe reverently. And now, he continued, as he replaced it on his head, I will kindle a fire and make the coffee. And maybe she may wake up by the time it is ready. Kindle a fire out here, Joe. Will not the smoke be seen and lead to our discovery? Inquired Lion Burners, glancing at the slender column of smoke from the fire in church that he himself had kindled, and now for the first time struck with the sense of the danger of discovery to which it might have exposed Sybil. Lord Mars, replied Joe, showing his teeth, we are too far from any human being for any eye to see our smoke. And even if it wasn't so, bless you, there are so many mists rising from the valley this morning that one smoke more or less wouldn't be noticed. That is true, admitted Mr. Berners. Meanwhile, Joe busied himself with lighting a fire. When it was burning freely, he took the kettle and filled it from the little stream that flowed through the churchyard. Now, Mars Lion, in about 10 minutes, I will set you down to as good a breakfast almost as you could have got at home, said Joe, as he raised 3 cross sticks over the fire and hung the kettle over the blaze, gypsy fashion. While Joe was at work, Mr. Berners went into the church to look after Sybil. She was still sleeping the heavy sleep of utter mental and bodily prostration. For a few minutes he stood contemplating her with an expression of countenance full of love and pity. And then, after adjusting the covering over her and collecting together the brands of the expiring fire to light up again, he left the church. Not sure what they're scratch underlining there, but it looks like expiring fire. On going outside, he found that Joe had spread a cloth and arranged the root, or maybe that was the left leaving off point. On going outside, he found that Joe had spread a cloth and arranged a rude sort of picnic breakfast upon the ground. Do you see it? Now you see it. Someone scratched. The coffee is ready, Mars Lion. But how about the missus? Inquired the man as he stirred down the grounds from the top of the pot. She is still sleeping and must not be disturbed, answered Mr. Berners. Well, Mars Lion, I reckon as how you can relish a cup of coffee as well as she, so please to let me wait on you, sir. Mr. Berners thanked Joe and threw himself down upon the ground and made such a breakfast as a hungry man can make, even under the most deplorable circumstances. Now you know, sir, when the missus wakes up, be it longer or shorter, I can make fresh coffee for her in 10 minutes, said Joe cheerfully. But you cannot stay here very long. You will be missed from the house, objected Mr. Berners. Please, sir, I have so well provided for all that I can stay out till night. Bless you, sir, I told my fellow servants, as I was going to take some corn to the mill to be ground, and was again a-going to wait all day to fetch it home. And so I really did take the corn and told the miller I should come arter it this evening, and so I shall, and take it home all right, according to my word. It was a very polite proceeding, Joe, but how could you account to them for the hamper you brought away, and which must have excited suspicion, if not inquiry? Bless you, sir, I wasn't fool enough to let them see the hamper. All they saw was the 2 bags of corn as I rode out of the gate with. I had filled the hamper on the sly and hid it in the bushes by the road until I went by and picked it up. Still better, Joe, but your horse? What horse did you ride, and what have you done with him? I rode Dick, which I have tied him fast in the deep woods on the other side of the river. I crossed over the rapids with the help of a pole, explained Joe. While they were speaking, a step was heard crashing through the dried brushwood, and another moment Captain Pendleton, pale, sad, and weary, stood before them. And we will pick up with chapter 24 next time. The verdict and the visitor. Goodbye.